Hi, this is Meleika of Evanston Live TV for Channel 6, and we are here with a very special guest, Miss Mary Willis. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
So glad to have you here. You and I met at the Second Baptist Black Women in Leadership Summit a few weeks ago.
Yes.
And we had some amazing women up there on the panel. We had Monique Brunson-Jones, Reverend Martha Holmes, Pat Savage-Williams, Deborah Scott, Alderman Cicely Fleming Wilson, and they were all talking about their challenges and their thoughts on all the women in House of Representatives. And, you know, we touched on racism. And one of the questions that was brought up was going into the whole topic of racism and what Black women deal with. And what we discussed, part of what we discussed was, you know, a person can have the actions of a racist, but have you ever met a white person who just openly admitted to being a racist or having the behavior of a racist? Like, you know, you just never, I've never met anyone who admitted to being a racist or having the actions of a racist. They're quick to say, I am not a racist, absolutely not, even though they just got a Black person fired or you know, the achievement gap in the high schools and they don't believe that it's real, you know, so many things out there, and we won't even discuss Trump. We won't even discuss that. But, you know, we're faced with it every day, and we're often confronted with white people saying, I am not a racist. So then how do we move forward? How do we heal? How do we make things better if you can't admit it, you know?
Yeah, I knew.
So what I love was that you walked up to me after the event was over and you said, to answer your question, I am a racist. And then you went into your history and what that really meant. You know, so break down what you were saying, what you were trying to say to me.
Well, first off, I couldn't believe when you first asked the audience, are there any racists here? Or maybe you said white, are any of you white folks? I'm not sure exactly what terms you used. And I said to myself, I know I didn't hear her right. I know she didn't ask that question. And so I didn't raise my hand. And I don't think anybody else did. But then after it was all over, I went up to you and wanted to clarify that, yes, indeed, you did say, are there any racists out there in the audience? And I said, I'm one. I don't like it. I'm ashamed of it. But I used to believe that it was really embedded in my cell, in my DNA, because it's just so, it feels so permanently embedded in my body, in my mind, but I wouldn't know about my heart. That didn't never seem to clench it very well, but certainly I can find myself, and I've never really admitted it to anybody. But like while I'm driving, and I hope my granddaughter never sees this because I do try to drive a lot better, safer, you know, as you get older. But I can, well, it's a Black person. No wonder she'd try to cut me off. I'm white and she's Black and, you know, stuff like that. Which tells me something about myself, you know, that I don't like to hear and that I've been working on, I guess, ever since I met my husband when I was 21, who happened to be an African American. So he just opened up the whole world, that whole world to me, because I had never met anyone personally that I knew that was African American. So with that, of course, came my family disowning me. And it was very hard. For 13 years, they didn't speak to me. And my name was not allowed to be said in the house or amongst my brother and sister or relatives. They were not allowed to ever say my name at my father's directions. I don't really know where my mother stood that well, but I was quite obvious. I knew where my father stood. But I went ahead and married about a year and a half after we met each other. And he did die unexpectedly, totally, when he was 39, because he was a musician. And I blame some of that on that, because the nighttime working and
The
his
lifestyle
schedule.
of a musician.
Yes, and he definitely was not eating properly. He, was just not into healthy foods. So he did die, and it was from arteriosclerosis. His, veins and arteries had hardened, and so that was pretty hard. And I don't know how well I got along with his family. I tried to, but they weren't too excited about me either. His mother maybe was, but his sisters and brothers, and he had 9 of them. There was 10 altogether.
Oh, first of all, where were you raised?
Oh, I was born at St. Francis Hospital in Evanston, and my parents lived in Wilmette, and so I was taken home to Wilmette, and I stayed there till I was almost 21.
Mary, when you say that it was embedded, ingrained in you, what were the conversations in your household growing up? Because let me tell you, as a black person, I wonder, what are those conversations in a household where it's ingrained in them, it's embedded in them to see us in a certain light and feel a certain way when they see a person of color, when they see a black person, driving next to them or sitting next to them in school or, at work in the next office over. What were those conversations growing up?
I don't recall really a real conversation, because I was just told.
What were you told?
Well, I don't remember verbatim, but I'm sure it was like, they're just drastically different than you are, and you wouldn't have anything in common with them, and, just basically, they're, I guess beneath you is what he was, wanting me to absorb here, that, I'm better than, because there was no people of color in Wilmette at that time, although I did hear maybe there was one family, but of course I didn't know them. And if I did, he'd certainly make sure that I forgot about him, because he was really, that is an absolute no-no. You just have nothing to do with them. Why? I never could figure out. I mean, he was raised, I thought, pretty well. I enjoyed my grandparents, his mother and father. He was an alcoholic, so that says a lot about him, And my mother was a very depressed person. So she never said much. I just don't remember her saying anything at all. He was in the 40s and 50s, he was the head of the household, and whatever he said, we did. We wore the shoes my mother wanted, or the clothes. In those days, everything was said and done, and this is the way you do it, and you don't deviate from any of this. But when, let's see, in high school, there might have been, I don't remember, I went to St. Scholastica, all Catholic schools, and then I graduated from Mundelein College. And there was another girl there in a class, and her last name was Willis. So the girls around there would tease me. It's like, oh, how did that happen? You have a sister. I mean, they were being very unkind. But of course, I went along with them. I said, oh, of course not. I mean, I don't know how she could get my last name. I was... So I remember, though, being ashamed and not really understanding why, but I knew that these girls did not like this one particular girl who was African American and had my last name. So I just thought, well, yeah, you know, if you want to be with the good guys or the smart girls or the nice, whatever, you know, I didn't want to offend anybody. Of course, you know, I don't know if I ever even spoke to her, because I don't think I did, because, you know, maybe I would have been classified as having a friend that was, I don't know, you know, but I just knew that it wasn't something I wanted to, the whole world to know.
Was the N-word often used?
No, I never remember hearing that. I don't even know if I ever heard my father probably said it, but no, I wasn't exposed to that word a lot. No.
You know, Evanston prides itself on being diverse and inclusive. And
Where?
You said where?
Yeah, I'd like to know where it is. Because I've been here, I've lived close enough for 77 years, but the last 45 in Reba Place Church in South Evanston. And that's why I was attracted there, because they had a few black people and they welcomed us warmly.
There are progressives in Evanston who swear by Evanston being diverse all over the place. And yes, and you have the real progressives who are like, no, it's not. It's not really diverse.
It's still, well, blacks are here, and, you know, we poor white and blacks are down in the South End. You know, not poor, but, you know, poorer.
I know what you're saying.
You know.
So.
Oh, there's such a deep divide.
Speak to that divide. What does that look like coming from a white woman who was raised in a household where you were told, you know, black people are beneath you, and then you fell in love with a black man, and now, you know, you're in Evanston, you're at Reba Church, and you see this divide. Speak to that.
What shall I speak to that? It's painful, and I get to the point where I went to many Black Lives Matters meetings and other, you know, the Y, and now it's like, I'm not going to ever say I would ever give up in fighting for the rights of people, all people. But it's harder when you get older too, because you have so many other disabilities, you know, when you get older, and I've got plenty of fake knees and, you know. So it just takes its toll, and I can't imagine waking up every day knowing you're black and I have to go out there. What kind of a day will it be?
If you could speak to all of the white people in Evanston, North Shore, the ones who swear by it being diverse and inclusive, what would you say to them right now?
Move here and find out. You know how many blacks have left Evanston in the last few years? Thousands. And when I moved to South Evanston, there was probably all blacks in the apartment building that I, when I first came in '74 and moved into. We have one in my building. Well, I'm forgetting my daughter and son, son-in-law. That's the only ones that, you know, I mean, it's almost all white now. I think they have one black member in the fellowship, which is a Mennonite community, where people share their monies. You know, they have a common purse, and there's only one black member. When I came, there was quite a few more, but they're all gone. Well, two of them are still here. There's one family that's basically still here, and they think I'm over the top. I should not get so upset, and I can't figure that out, but that's okay.
They're questioning why you are questioning where are all the black people? What happened?
Yes.
Where's everybody going?
And they will not really get on the bandwagon with me and say, there's some prejudice here. I think we better do something about it.
See, what is that? Because in Evanston, I'm finding that the racism is very hidden. It's like a pernicious type racism.
Definitely.
And it's hard to really call it out because the they're not walking around with a Confederate flag or,
Right.
So, but it's there. And then when people are pointing it out, you're being told, oh, no, that's not real. That's not happening. Then you should say something. Well, people have been saying something, but you're not listening.
Yeah.
So
why don't
explain
they,
that from
why
a
can't
white
they
person's
hear
point of
'em?
view. What is a white person like that thinking? Like what's going on there? Are they really
I don't
racist
know if I can get into that.
in there?
You know what I mean? It's been so long that
Okay.
I kind of see myself not as black, but as, I don't know how to describe it, but I'm certainly,
Would you say that they are racist? They're racist in denial, or are they just absolutely clueless?
I don't think they want to see it. If I hadn't been exposed as a social worker, probably, to blacks that have homes and live normal lives, I don't know how I would have if I was not in that, hadn't been exposed. Let's just say I walked in that night that he was playing and met him, and not having been exposed to knowing anyone personally. I don't know how what I would have done, really. I just don't know, but I never thought about it.
So to
But they have to expose themselves. That's
Okay.
the thing. If you don't expose your kids,
they don't have an understanding of
oh
something
no,
different.
why should they? Yeah, I mean, why do they even expect themselves to understand unless that's something that really irritates my daughter is all these white people at Reba say they're not racist. Well, look at all their best friends. Do any of them have a black friend? No. I can't think of one. I do, but so how are you going to get over that bridge, get through that, unless you have that touchy-feely emotional relationship to somebody who's not like you at all? And if they're not going to expose themselves or their children are going to grow up to be just as racist.